39-year-old Sisi was promoted Monday to the highest-ranking military position of Field Marshal. Many supporters believe he can bring security and stability back to Egypt.
Now we consider Field Marshal Abdel Fattah el-Sisi as the most capable man of running the country at this time. He is the man who sided with the people.
Field Marshal Sisi now has a cult-like following and is expected to win the presidential elections easily. His portraits are posted all over the country alongside charismatic leader Gamal Abdel Nasser. However, young secular militants are not buying into the mass propaganda campaign.
And this would be catastrophic, of course, because this goes against all of what we've stood for, against the militarization of the state, against having a brutal dictator from the army.
With only 3 months to go before the presidential elections, Sisi has no declared rivals. Despite his current popularity, he has no record as a Democrat, and he's shown he's willing to use deadly force against his dissenters.
A convoy of vehicles carrying ex-Senegal fighters has left the center of Bangui, heading for the outskirts of the capital. Desperate civilians fleeing the city say there is general insecurity in the capital. French and African Union troops are patrolling the streets of Bangui. However, sectarian violence continues to rage across the Central African Republic. We have details in this report.
A line of lorries full of United Nations food aid and military equipment arrives from Cameroon, heading for Bangui, where thousands of displaced people are in need. The convoy was held up at the border for 3 weeks before being escorted by French military. These are the first recent eyewitness accounts of what is happening west of the country.
There is pillaging everywhere. All the villages and mosques are burned down. Every village you come across has anti-Balaka armed with machetes and anything else to kill someone with.
The convoy arrives on the outskirts of the capital, passing dozens of departing vehicles full of former Seleka rebels. They are leaving Bangui city centre for a camp situated in the PK-12 neighborhood.
This country is run by African Union forces and French forces, so we have gathered our men and moved them.
They say they are ready to defend themselves from the anti-Balaka militias. Any attempt to get around the city is extremely risky.
There are people over there.
This terrified family is trying to get to the airport.
They started shooting at us. They threw grenades at us. We had to come here to seek safety.
Sectarian violence continues here in Miskine, where young Christians and Muslims clash every day. The presence of international forces is not enough to stop being shot at, pillaging, fleeing civilians, or the bloody settling of accounts.
Group of qualified unemployed, that is the name coined by a group of unemployed university graduates in Senegal. The group is seeking to highlight the plight of unemployed youths in Senegal. Statistics show as many as 400,000 young people remain unemployed in the West African state. We have details in the CFI report.
Hassan Yang is not easily beaten. He has set up his own business selling cereals. This was not his first choice, since he is a qualified technician in public works. But he found his years of studying counted for nothing when he looked for work in his profession in Senegal. Hassan didn't want to find himself at a loose end with other unemployed people. I couldn't find a job, so I threw myself into selling local produce, and particularly rice from this area. I'm setting up a business, and this will create jobs for other young people. High unemployment amongst young people in Senegal has reached alarming levels. Over 400,000 young people who have university diplomas are struggling to get their first job. They set up an association called the Group of Qualified Unemployed in Senegal. The grouping criticizes the government for not doing more to help young people. It's up to the government to set up a policy to create jobs in both the private and public sectors to absorb this high rate of unemployment. Senegal's state sector has recently employed 5,000 people with university diplomas to work in the public sector. The move is just a drop in the ocean as far as those who are still looking for work are concerned.
We now take a second break.
The lowest international call rates ever.
Yes, you heard it. Chromium offers you the lowest international tariff ever.
Lower than anywhere else.
Chromium Super Savers. For the first time, you can also use your bonus credit to make international calls.
Only from Chromium.
Now is the time to call family and friends all over the world at rates you can definitely afford. Chromium brings you the lowest international call rates ever.
Name your country and we got the lowest rates to that destination.
One of the many reasons we say your credit lasts longer with Chromium.
Chromium. We are better together.
Welcome back. Over now to sports. There is a new winner for the first Grand Slam championship as some of the top seeds in tennis crash out of the Australian Open in the early stages. The Gambia is way behind schedule in producing that caliber of players, but as we hear this report by Ababukar Senghor, young lawn tennis players in the country are hoping to one day turn professional, which means representing their country at international tournaments.
The last time I visited this lawn, Basu a fresh-faced youngster and the more experienced Marcianoka were the poster boys for the game of tennis in the Gambia. That was back in the opening years of this decade, and fast forward to 2014, and a new batch of players is aiming to follow in the footsteps of the lawn's two most celebrated players. This sounds a hard act to follow, for these young athletes will have to live up with the challenging issue of playing on a not too comfortable court. To help the new players learn basic skills in tennis, Marciano and current champion Yakuba Drame are back on the lawn to help some of the youngsters improve on their performances.
Since we started training last year we have been working on very good training with them, because now we have like 3 coaches and every coaches have a day of doing your own section training with them. And for me, I am the Gambia Wheelchair Tennis Association and I also help in the able bodies, but right now I'm concentrating more on the wheelchair tennis. We are doing a lot of training to develop the people, because the only tournament the kids used to go for now is in Senegal. So we are make sure that we train them very hard so that when they go, they can make a very good performance.
There is a growing feeling among the new batch of younger tennis players here of building a more prosperous future in the game. For Bakari Drame is among a host of players enjoying time on the lawn.
I want to play until I turn to pro. I play this game for my whole career. I want to play it for my whole career.
Many of these players are yet to sample the pressure of playing in competitive games, something the Tennis Association members say is important in their development.
We have been sending our kids to other areas in the sub-region, like Senegal, Ghana, and Togo, to attend tournaments. That's the under 14 and 12 and under, because that's the only areas that we can be sponsoring. In fact, as a matter of fact, those tournaments are sponsored by CAD, the Confederation of African Tennis, but it's only regional. Apparently, the 18 and above, we have no money to fund them. They are already seeded and they have qualified to be playing within the sub-region and in Africa as a whole.
The association has gone one step in hiring the services of a Cameroonian trainer who is providing SSL training modules for the players.
Now, concentration. They don't concentrate. That's the most important thing in this game. Tennis is a quiet game. You know, if you're not quiet in the head, it's going to be very difficult.
What do you need to do to get them concentrate on their game?
Actually, it's very difficult, you know, because like in some other countries they have somebody who's like working there on the concentration, but in Africa or somebody don't have. So we just try to, by playing matches, you know, like singles, so many matches for them to get focused in the games. That's what we do now.
The next step for the association is to organize a tournament for these youngsters who are aiming to make the grades in the game of tennis. For Grts Sport is Babukar Senghor.